We should do a little intro of like, Levi and I've been doing this podcast for a little while, and we've always talked about us getting together. And for context for anybody, Aaron is the other partner. I think it would be kind of fun just to do a little intro of yourself. Who's Aaron? What do you do? What do you love?
Okay, so yeah, thank you. So I definitely am behind the curtain, kind of prefer my little fortress of solitude kind of guy. I got, great kids. So things I really love. In my early career, I really tried to figure out what I was good at. And now I'm at a point, particularly with the help of you guys, I have good business partners and we fight like brothers, but the brotherly love always prevails. And that's kind of important to me as a framework. I realized that in my career, it's not about what I'm good at. It's about what I enjoy doing and what the world enjoys me doing, if that makes sense. And it's like, you can hear it. You can like hear the ethos respond to you. Like people message you or they tell you have a good day or just the sun's a little brighter. So yeah, I think that's who I am, is just somebody who tries to take really complex problems and puts them through a lens of, in First Nations community work, we call it two-eyed seeing, but it's a lens of like a few different viewpoints and then just try to listen. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a couple friends in a business group, and they're, really smart people, but they all have like something that they were truly good at. And I've always like admired that of them. Like I never felt like I was like truly great at one thing. And as I get older and older and as I spend more time in the role that I'm in, I realize that, I think what I'm good at is a bunch of things and managing them well, a lot of different complex things. I'm very good at plate spinning without looking like I'm sweating. Though I do have my blow ups when a plate crashes or something. But yeah, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And you do have like your background's pretty interesting. I think people would be interested to kind of understand like your project management background a little bit too. You started in construction. Maybe give a little bit on that.
Yeah, so I went to university after high school, and anybody who knows me shouldn't have sent me there. I got through it. I didn't show up to class. I just kind of read the books and handed in the assignments, and barely got by my first year. And as I floated through my second year, my mother said, "Well, if you're gonna, you know, have a low income job or not make any money, go at least get a trade, and then you can at least have that, and you'll make some good dollars, and then we work for you." And this would have been like 2000 early.
2000 early,
Back
yeah.
back when back
Early.
back when
I did that. It was what'd you say, Colby?
back when Usher was killing it.
Exactly. Yeah, the thong song was a big hit during my carpentry. So I took carpentry school, and I worked for a couple years for a house builder, and I got to the point where I only wanted to build houses, nothing else. And I worked with a two-man crew, this old guy Benny, and he was fucking mean and miserable, but he taught me a lot of things just about like get it done, just like you can achieve really crazy things with a bad attitude. And I definitely still carry a bit of Benny's traits with me today, but we were really and stuff out, and I was so young I didn't really understand how important that was to the company or to all of it. And but always I was kind of ambitious guy, and I ended up coaching rugby. I was a big rugby player, and the daughter of one of the biggest kind of home builders around here with a strong reputation, and I went on to his crew. And about 6 months from there, I started to lead projects for him. Within about 6 months, just a small little tiny garage, like a storage unit, but I thought it was like you know this was an Empire State Building when I got to do this. And all the guys around me were young, really, really accomplished carpenters. But I was pretty good at reading plans and understanding project, just the way things worked really early. And so that was cool. So then the winter hit, and those guys kind of go hibernate like bears, carpenters, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, the guy who's looking after this big house company is insulating a house. His insulators bailed." And I'm like standing in my boxers, and I call the guy. I'm like, "Hello, my name is Bob, and yeah, well, why don't you come look at it and help it out?" And he's like, "Well, how much do you want an hour?" And just like, I'm like, "Well, I like to work off of project work." And he's like, "Oh, okay." It was like just like that one indicator. It was like that first time I kind of shifted the way I thought, the narrative, like breaking the blue collar, like hourly transition for time and into value. And I think I told him I would take like $2,000 for a week and a half of work, which is hilarious, in hindsight. But it did align me to go work with him. And we ended up working that night till midnight, because I had still carried this like get it done mentality with me. And like insulation isn't a complicated job, but this one was just kind of a pain in the butt. And again, it wasn't really, I had more gumption than experience. So we did it and ended up working with him. And we ended up building houses, and then we started building apartment buildings, and then we got into some nursing homes. And yeah, I learned a lot, and at a really young age, I think a lot about him. I'm like, well, why did you let me do that? Like, why did you, put such trust into like a young kid that was like hungry? And we had another company that we were kind of the umbrella under, or sorry, they were the umbrella for us. So like, I was like, we were young, man. I was young and just really had some big projects, and yeah, I worked hard in that. And like anything, it's a learning curve of like challenge and the decision to succeed. Like you're going to fail. Like in construction is just a series of failures, and those who are good at can just fail best. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys, maybe not a lot, but people turn to unhealthy ways to cope with dealing with constant failures and fires and construction. And I remember I backed into like a house one time, just like literally backed into it with my truck on an icy driveway. And the worst part of it is it wasn't even a problem, because I knew how to fix it. And I called 4 people and we fixed it. And it was just like, it just became this kind of like interesting process. And people management, material management, client management, and high volume sales.
I like how you
So
divide client management and people management. Like they're completely
there,
separate things.
Yeah.
clients are people. Clients are people. They're from planet like Nebula, 100%. And some of them are like from the nice part of Nebula, and some of them are from the other part of
Yeah,
Nebula.
especially in like, you're doing something that is very, very passionate. For, like the client is a passionate client, especially if they're building their first home or their dream home. You can get all, even if they're not like that in real life, they might turn into that in that process.
Absolutely. And usually people, once you get through the spending of the fun stuff that, this was, Pinterest was a popular tool. But once you get past the fun stuff of like, oh, this flooring looks really great, and you get into like, what's the color of your door handles, or do we want hinges matching the door colors to the, and people are like, whoa. It's like, well, this is why people choose an interior designer, but that has a cost, and it's the most money people are ever going to spend. And we were fortunate because not that I worked with like the highest end home builders, but we did some high end homes, and we had worked around high end homes. Uh, but I also was around like stick framing from my early construction days, and it was also around like modular, which is pretty common today, where they bring it in. So there's like this unique, again, like two-eyed seeing of how all the construction world came to take somebody's dream, a client's dream, into a reality. And that's really what I was obsessed with. And where I got to in the construction game, what kind of wore me out was this need of the convention. So like steeped in like paper plans, and I was like the guy running around with an iPod or an iPad way before. And
Might have been an iPod too.
Yeah, it might have been. It probably was an iPod. But I I would like encourage people to take a phone photo of it and send it to me instead of requesting for me to show up in the morning. Like, show up in the morning for what? Because it was very routine for these guys. And, you know, some of the trades have been handed down to their fathers, and like, and now knowing what I know, not knowing this now, but just dealing with so many businesses and, you know, and we do, I realize that like connection, you know, there's so many things that go into the environment that they had actually created. But for me, that environment was like so rigid and old and like steeped in everything I didn't want to participate in, I guess. And so I ended up leaving, and I quit. I just said goodbye. And the guy who I worked for, it was really tricky because we talked for hours. We worked 90-hour weeks. So I was like 28 years old, 29 years old. And then just one day I get up, and my wife at the time, as you can tell, it happens when you grow in that construction. But my wife at the time, I just continued to go to work for like 3 or 4 weeks. And I would just like go do what I normally did, except I just didn't show up on job sites because it was almost like this, like the lion in the zoo. They're like, they've done their trench, you know, and they just like literally can't undo it. You let them out in the wild and they're still like, and they're walking the thing. And that kind of happened to me a little bit. And I was like, whew, okay, I don't like this. What am I going to do? Then a couple of months went by and I wasn't the hottest, coolest guy anymore. I was, you know, and all the wonders of like, ooh, did I just take like a good opportunity and burn it? Like maybe I can't do this again. Like maybe I'm, you know, back to the like, what am I good at? I was like, oh shit, I don't know. Maybe I just had this big lottery ticket and just set it on fire. And like that was like, I think that was the first time I really had to inwardly use all of my personal experiences to find a path forward. It was like, it was a very introspective time, and I was spending a lot of time in the woods. I was a great dog, Sadie. And we used to just go and just like, I was like, what am I doing? Like, where's my space? Where's my purpose? Where's my home in the world? And so we continued kind of this cycle, and months and months and months went by. And I was just like always on Indeed, always on Indeed, always on Indeed. And I seen this big tech company was looking for a construction consultant. And so I, at the same time, was working for, I think like $9 an hour cash, picking up shingles for this guy upriver who did kind of cash jobs, because I had decided that I was going to take a job I was going to hate again. I was like, I'm not doing anything that I might find enjoyment in, because I know my next thing has to be bigger than the Martel thing. Oh, my next thing has to be bigger than the big construction thing.
Yeah.
Period. Right. And I realized that I couldn't go back to something that might be close to the big construction world, because I might like it. I might get stuck. And I knew I didn't want that. So also, I'm picking up shingles with these guys. It's the most labor I've done in maybe my whole life. It's backbreaking. These guys are 50 doing it. It's all cash. It's a whole thing. And there was a spot open for council in the city. So I decided that I'm going to run, and it was a by-election. So I'm literally like almost crying in my car, getting out of work, going and picking up shingles wherever odd job they were doing, as I washed up and put on my sports coats and would go campaign at lunch, and then come back and go back to the blue collar world. And I was like, I've always been this human that never strayed away from weird or complicated situations or like odd people or but I did find myself in this weird, like I was here and I knew I put myself there. And so this big tech company was looking for a construction manager. And I put on my suit and I went down and I applied for the job as a consultant. And I, you know, everything that I had in my resume that I had seen as failures, you know, I used to build this, I used to build this. I had to reposition it to go get the job. And in retooling that language and going through the interview, I realized, holy crap, I did a whole bunch of stuff. I had never seen it that way.
Right.
You know,
We're all
because
pretty hard on ourselves.
yeah,
Yeah.
really, really hard on ourselves. And not only that is, I played very high level rugby, and so for success based people, we set achievements. We never celebrate them because we set the next one. So like the first time I won a gold medal when I was 5, but then I chased the gold medal again. And I'd done that with work and life and everything, guitar, music. I had not really at that time, because I had had an opportunity early, I had really seen it as a way to kind of change my family's story, you know?
Yeah.
So this process of like putting myself in a place I knew I wouldn't enjoy, seeking something greater, and then nailing the job. So I ended up getting this gig with them, and it was my first time around corporate America, and they were sizable. And my first job was to work with their CFO, their COO, their CEO, their CMO on a project in Ontario on a 10th story building. And I just had design plans. And so for the guy in Miramichi who had been running around saying, iPad, they're like, here's all your files, go, because they had already been doing this for 10 years, 15 years, because that's how it works. So it was this really, really great experience, but also there was so much bloating in the corporate world. And I have a good recall for knowledge. I'm, pretty good at it. For some reason, I try my best to destroy my brain cells, and they keep sticking around. And
So far.
so far, yeah, time will tell. But I had this good memory recall, so I used to just take these calls and just like sit there, and I realized that I could take these calls anywhere. And it was Canada's 150 year, and they had all these rubber dinghies at Canadian Tire for $15. And I went and bought, like, they were like the boats, like the boats you buy. And I bought like 10 of them. I threw them in this truck that I had. And I used to drive out to this little lake, this old city reservoir that's kind of nowhere. And it's like a 40-minute walk. And I would take my cell phone, I'd take all my stuff, and I'd blow up my dinghy, and I'd go out there, and I'd take a few meetings for these people in Ontario. And that would be my job. And then I would just kind of lay there and think around what the problem was of the project. And I would scroll on my iPhone and look at the plans. And like, I did that for an entire summer, and it really just like broke my brain. Because I was like, I had just gone through this crazy experience of like, am I enough? Maybe I am. I caught another wave. Maybe I'm still not good, right? Like there's still all of that. And I'm laying in a lake. At this time, the guy who I had originally worked for, me and him are become friends again. He said, hey, would you be interested on looking after another project that I'm looking at? And I said, yes, but I'm doing it in a different way, my lake way. And he's like, yeah, we'll try it. We'll make it work. It didn't work. But we're all friends at love. The project still got done, but it wasn't a right fit for the two of us and the way we did it. But also in this seeking opportunity, I run into Colby. And I'm at a coffee shop working my best lake life and going and drinking, okay, expressive Americanos, pretty good Americanos. And
in my head, I actually pictured you as the barista working at the coffee. I was like, that is the wild directional shift.
I was just drinking them. And then I ran into Colby, and he was hanging around the middle of the day looking like he had ambition, and I was doing the same. And I think that kind of took it off. And I don't deal with construction very much anymore. I still look after various projects. And I have consulted, and I will pick up the right one if it's the right one, mostly because I know the commitment that the project needs to make it succeed at the level that I want it to. And my life with small kids and other businesses and a fiance, right, a doctorate, all that stuff. It's like it's too much to fit into a box. And so, my long-winded story of who I am and what makes up Aaron is that the retooling the narrative, understanding what the world is that you're working in, and then understanding who you are is the skill set that I have not only, I think, taught to myself and am working to every day. It's the paintbrush that an artist uses. And I never realized that an artist doesn't create art, they become the art and art flows through them. And I think in the line of work that I'm trying to do, it's that. It is work around projects that allow the project to be the best. Nothing about you, or there's a climate, there's a time, there's a people. Like, sure, you can get a project done and everyone can hate themselves at the end of the day. You can get a project done and it can be wildly financially successful and have burned out every bridge to get there. And there's so many ways to get to that end result, and I'm fascinated by that. And that's why I think we're all aligned business partners at the end of the day. We may fight or argue or lobby for our position, but it's because we're fascinated with the ways it can get done. And I think
especially with those ways changing so much too. Like
and people and technology. I was always somebody who leaned into the technology side, and now for the first time, and maybe it's my age, I hate to say it, but I'm weary for the first time ever. And I've always been the get the new thing and try the new thing and experience it and see where it can bring us. But the truth is that I'm not sure it's going to, like, machines are supposed to do the work for us so we can make the art. Not machines make the art and we're left without anything to do. And I think that that's kind of the human position. And even in project management, or it's such a change management component. And I'm using language that I find so funny because I've learned these terms afterwards, but I didn't understand what change management was when I was in construction. I remember having to call an entire crew of men down. I was 24 and I had just come from a meeting, so I was not dressed like that. It was extra bad optics, and I know that now, but I didn't even know in the hindsight. I had to pull them down and tell them that, as it was January, it's very cold, that somebody pulled the sink on one of the top drains of the apartment building, third floor, and urinated in it. And I had to tell them, guys, you cannot piss in the sinks when it's cold. Go use the porta potties. And we have heated porta potties for a reason. And it's things like that make you really. I reflect as a reflective human. I think about that a lot, because it's like, not only how did I handle it, but I kind of in my mind think to the piss in the sink situation all the time. I'm like, no one was listening. It didn't change anything. It checked the box on the safety standards. The client was furious, but he wasn't experienced on a construction site, and that was the least of the concerns of all the things that are happening. Yes, it's absolutely disgusting, but also construction. And I try to take those philosophies into not only our work, but even as I am a business partner to you guys, as a relationship builder. And I've been really blessed to do a bunch of different work with a bunch of different people to give me that viewpoint.
So I want to pull us back to something you said earlier, because I don't know if there's a right answer, but I think we have the same story, and I'm sure, Colby, you have some version of it, is that questioning of why did they give me that opportunity? That initial, whether I talked myself into, or I portrayed it good enough, fake it till you make it, or the guy was just lazy, whatever the case was, that I was for me, I was put into the general manager of a small boutique hotel and restaurant at 24. And you, the construction project management piece. So when I think about that now, who I am and what we do, the thought of handing some of these really big, meaningful roles and decisions and letting somebody in their 20s or with less experience roll with it. With as little supervision and with as much trust as what I got, I struggle with it. But also, I don't think I would have got here without having had that opportunity.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
want to sit in that a little bit because I'm just like, I don't know if I could do that. And what do I need to rethink for that to be possible?
I never really thought of framing it like that before, but like at 23 to 26, doing that national campaigns for that health product that I was doing. Like I was in charge of marketing for like something that had like 1,100 and some stores, and like no clue of the actual weight of that as I think about it now, knowing what I know now. Yeah, it was
Power of
just
naivete.
yeah, I was just like in the moment trying to figure it out and do the best that I could. And like, man, not that I wish I could go back and do it now, but I kind of wish I could at the same time of like, I know so much more. But I think it's interesting how we all kind of found each other and also how those skill sets brought us to realize what problem we were going to go solve, like those life experiences and where we actually found, I don't know, we could call it like a gap or an opportunity, to kind of help other folks that have been around for a while kind of go through this change. And because it's extremely overwhelming to be a business owner right now, and it's like changing every week. So it kind of brings me to my next kind of thought is like, how do you guys see things changing, and what have we been noticing in that world? I guess more well, private sector and like the public sector too. Like I hear about all the changes with like AI and stuff in the public sector. They're trying to figure all that stuff out, and same as the private sector, but they're having different issues. So what have you guys been noticing?
Well, there's a lot to that question. I think the partial answer for me is that I'm seeing that there's definitely going to be a large group of people or organizations that are going to be left behind that are going to need more support than others. I got into this because the business owner needs help. It's a really stressful, lonely journey and things are changing. And I just devoutly believe that if you're really good at something and you're able to take risk, that you don't have to figure everything else out. But my mind is shifting a little bit. I still believe that, but some of those for-profit businesses that I want to help. I know it's not fair. I know they need the support, but also if they win financially. And now we're working with more and more organizations that, their goal isn't necessarily profit. We're working with a handful of like really powerful nonprofits who are not attracting the people who are going to explore and push the envelope on efficiency and process and tools. And they don't have the bandwidth in their organization to have like even HR and like a lot of the just how do we operate. And it's like the technology and the way things operate is changing, but nobody's bringing them along. And so like I'm deeply gratified in a lot of the nonprofit work, which is the exact same work we're doing, but with an audience that has no there's no upside for them getting better. And I just that's where I'm sitting in my head is I don't want to
Yeah,
move away from the for profit, but
the financial upside. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's an indicator. So, like I think finances is something that a lot of people perceive the business world as being driven by. But I think particularly in the small business, at least for the Atlantic region, there is still a pretty equal weight of conscientious weight. A lot of those hyper ambitious need to go corporate 500 guys, I think, like either blow past the threshold of that quickly or they go work for organizations that don't already have some of those mandates in place. Um, but my experience is that, particularly like how Canada is, I think we're a little bit torn between our like socialistic roots and the socialism's a bad word, and I kind of see that playing out. It's like the non-for-profits are trying to turn into for-profit businesses because of their lack of resources and want and care you know and then the smaller businesses are trying to turn into non-for-profits. They're being heavily supported by grants or subsidies or otherwise, and then have kind of a business righteousness about them as if they're earning it, which I kind of find funny. And not an observation, not a knock. We do it, but before Levi and Colby, I had some more outdated views on taking government funds and work, and I still hold those strong. I do think there's far, far, far too much government involved in business, and their role should be oversights. I do believe there's a role for government. It's in oversights and restrictions. It's protecting the lands in which we sit on. It's protecting the people in which occupy these lands. It's health. That's the government's job, I see in my mind, among many other things. But it's not to be redistributing wealth in a convention way of like, we'll tax this percentage and then allow a loophole for this, which exists. We know they exist. And so like, I think that the government has lost sight of the vision when it comes to socialist roots and, kind of capitalistic world. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of, Colby, and there's no wrong way. I can't stress that enough. It's like, I am not a conservative, I'm not a liberal, I'm not an NDP, I'm not a Quebecois separatist, but I'm all of them in some conversations. They all have a valid opinion. Just
every
not
conversation
always.
needs a couple sides, so
Yeah, right. And just not always. It's just not always definitive. And I think that that's the other big struggle right now for entrepreneurs is we're in a world of like false success. And we look on Instagram, we look on Facebook, we look on billboards, we look at that. We only see the highlight reel of people's existence. And then you look at your existence and it's like, I need to work more. I need 60 hours a week. And it's like, I need this, I need that. And Elon Musk doesn't sleep and boom, 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 boom. And it's like, okay, but going back to who you are or your journey, what centers you? What do you want? And then what does the universe say, hey, come do? And that's where I think like entrepreneurs are really struggling. I met so many great entrepreneurs that have a vision but have lost their voice, or entrepreneurs that have a strong operational workload and don't have the, capacity to foresee the future, or I say hide behind the curtain, but like I don't enjoy the networking stuff and I'm not as natural at it as you guys. And Colby or Levi rather dragged me to a thing the other day with some kicking and screaming to our client who invited me to the table. I did kick and scream, but I really had a great time. But I think that's the important part of not only our relationship, but the entrepreneurial landscape. I think more people need to find out how to do it with some business partners and share that load.
So I want to come back and hear your thoughts on the future, but this is just a perfect segue moment on something I've wanted to ask. Is we do an exercise every year or so because we believe in aligned on values, complementary in skill sets, and we're a three-headed beast. So there's three owners, and a business is quite complicated. We do a lot of things; it's hard to define. And so we go through an exercise and we ask ourselves, like, yes, we understand like the North Star, the business strategy, what we're trying to do. But then we also ask ourselves, what is success for us each individually? And let's have the conversation so we can marry the straight up strategic goal of the company, financial, fit, all that stuff, but then also personal goals on all three of us. And I was wondering if put on the spot, I'd love to go through a little bit of that exercise because I think that's an important mix that a lot of people don't, especially on partnerships. Like, I mean, aside from we want to make money because we want to be able to continue making these things happen, what are you hoping to get out of the business? And I'm going to start with Colby just because you haven't talked as much.
Yeah, sure. I think that we're really good at identifying what's going on in the world, and I think we're really good at getting things done, and doing complicated things, as we've all mentioned. But for me personally, I want to, like, when we got started, we all read that Built to Sell model, the book, sorry, and like things like the E-Myth. And I think for a professional services company, it's really easy to be the lead and to be doing you know, basically creating yourself a job. And I think the model that kind of fascinates me is like, can we build this kind of self-running thing and then pop in where we find the most joy. I think that would be the goal. And obviously, as profitable as we can stand.
As we can stand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know why I said it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to frame it, because, for me, I guess that's my point is, obviously we want to be successful. I'm thinking of succession, which is something I never thought as, just like a kid from a single mom. Like the thought of like, I'm trying to figure out how to transfer wealth or assets to my kids and their kids, which is like rooms I never thought I'd be in. But I think that's a really great point, Colby. It's like, how much profit can we stand? Because I have a lot of successful friends that are deeply unhappy and they can't get off the ride. We're all addicted to something, especially in the business world. It's not always drugs and alcohol. It's gym and deals, or it's, I see these like sales guys and they're just like fired up on a room full of people they don't know. And it's like they can't wait to get in there and do that. So, I think that's a really great way to frame what we are trying to do. It's profits that we can stand and build things that are sustainable.
Yeah. And I think our approach to teams is really good. I think that we still are handling a lot of like the consultant side, but below, like just a thin layer below that, like our folks are killing it, and the way that they're running projects and taking charge and doing the client meetings, and like I think it's like we're not far from what we're kind of talking about. And I think that, I'm finding specific work that really brings me a lot of joy. And then I'm having to like reassess the stuff. Like I don't even notice that it's taking as much of my energy as I maybe thought. But I think, I think it's trending in the right direction. And I also think that like we're looking at like launching that new service to fill a need that we saw while we were doing a lot of projects. And I think that just is a testament to us being able to make those decisions together and kind of go in those directions. And yeah.
I'm going to be just a little bit more selfish. I find more, because I think I was a little bit more altruistic. Like I wanted to solve the problem and I still feel that way. But I got to tell you, in the last year, I'm chasing dopamine and light bulb moments. We are so privileged to be able to see what's going on and what other people are struggling and notice that everybody's having the same problems and coming. And so every chance I do a little bit more like with our clients than either of your roles right at the moment. But like just telling them what we see, and I'm getting ahas, I'm getting light bulbs, I'm getting like like the videos of the podcast, the writing, the social media is now just like I want to just be the broadcaster. I want to perform because of what we're doing. And I got to tell you, it's really addictive. Like it's I think it's positive. I think it fits the whole, but like I am like how do I find a stage just to tell them what we learned last week, because we're so privileged and under the hood of so many trusted places. Like we're just taking a beacon and putting a light on what is happening everywhere.
But I think you nailed it. Especially I've been very fortunate that I get to do work in First Nations communities and kind of have some friends in that space that help me out. But trust is always number one in community work, but it's named there. And in this world, the colonial world, particularly the business world, it's not named. We don't call it relationship. We call it networking. We would put somebody in a room with hors d'oeuvres instead of like getting into traumas. And where in community, it's a lot more relationship based. It's really not surface level. Of course, there's like, how's your day? But if you want in, you really got to go there. And I really like that around, what we get to do with our clients is we go and build a relationship. And when we build a relationship, we're able to be clear with them on what we can do as humans, as individuals, what we can do as a company, and what our network can do. And, we've all come together and really shared some core philosophies. And, Levi, you came along a few years later, but me and Colby, even though we're from the same small town, we didn't really know each other. Our interactions were super minimal, like probably 10 words our entire lives until the point we really kind of met. But we had seen each other. Connecting friends that we had strong relationships with allowed us to get there. And now 99% of our business is that, but in referral base, in our relationships that we have that are very personal with the entrepreneur on the other end who is sharing our same journey and struggle. They refer us, just like me and Colby got connected in the same way we got connected. You were a moderator for a business group that, quite frankly, we were, if we had to put who was in the fun group together and who was in the other group, we would have been opposites. And there's a couple people
like
in our
how
group.
You put yourself in the fun group. Yeah, I get it.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I was definitely at the fun table. You would have been there for a minute, and then you would have went and did some work. So,
yeah, because that's fun.
It's fun, right? But that relationship, and that's where we all really understand is like, I never say those words with ever trying to like hurt you, and that, and vice versa, because your skill set is so much different than mine and so capable in that world. And I like to think that my skill set is the same for you and capable in this world. I'm trying to build it in Colby. You have the skill set, and that's where the trust is really starting to go. And we get to just go talk with people, and they tell us all these crazy things. And you said it. It's like we get to learn the road rash of others without having to scrape our knee. But the best part is we're in a position, and just the way we want to is we don't just share that with ourselves, but we go share this with all the other people that we can find that may prevent them from scraping their knees. And, it could there be more successful business models? Yeah. And we know that. That's kind of the funny thing. Like, could we make more money? 100%. But
tomorrow, if we made a couple decisions.
That's right.
Yeah.
But like to what Colby said, we make as much money as we can tolerate right now. And maybe that's not a perfect truth. There's definitely times we could take a little more in, for sure. But really, like, I think we're really trying to create a space that is long-term, that is sustainable, that it's built on a foundation of not just like one business group network, but networks that we will pass on to, our kids or our families or friends. And it creates a space where we're not only the mentee, but we're the mentor. And I think that's huge. I think that's a massive part of what I like to think will be the success. And when people look back at, our careers, they'll say, wow, like, look at the network that they developed, a trusted network. I always say my grandfather passed away and he had so many people at his funeral, and I'm like lobbying for more than him because I'm so competitive, right? So come to my funeral, that'll be the success. And I say that with so much love because, like, I come from a place, Miramichi, we're really caring people. We really genuinely believe in the connection that's made. And so the philosophy of just helping entrepreneurs be better, whether it be your fitness, could be some struggle in your life. Look, we're not therapists, but oh my goodness, we spend a lot of time playing one on TV.
Well, that's probably my favorite. Now that I'm thinking like a bit more selfishly, I suppose, after what you guys just mentioned, but that kind of because a lot of the work that I'm doing, like, I'm pretty deeply involved in the EO kind of forum like process improvement, and like doing deep dives, and I'm going into forum chair for that group, which is kind of exciting. But like doing that more for the owner operator, I think is like, something that I'm going to find a lot of joy in, that I would do for the rest of my life. Like dealing with those core struggles, like finding what's kind of standing in the way, is something that I've become deeply
Conversations that have no one single answer. Like it's all going to be complicated.
Yeah. And I think that, like you said it earlier, of like, it is a lonely journey, and it blows my mind, even myself, like I'll find myself feeling like I'm on a lonely journey, and then you like chirp out a couple of text messages to the group or to the network, and all of a sudden it's like, no, you're not alone in this. You're, I know 50 people that are going through the same thing. They'd be happy to chat. So I think the most valuable part of all of this is the network. I think you nailed it, Aaron. Like I think, having that for the rest of my life. There's people that I get to call that, I dread the day that I won't be able to call them.
Yeah. And I think about that for just the people not in the business world. Like, where do they go? You know what I mean? I remember being so alone. I had this moment with my friend Adam, and we talk about it all the time. And I'm working on construction plans. I'm in like a dank garage at like 12:30, like questioning just existence. And he came and sat with me for like 3 hours. And like, you just hang out and laughed. But I had to work. I worked at the desk, and he just sat there and hung out. And that was the pinnacle of lonely for me. Because I remember being surrounded by everyone, and I had, like you guys, a little success in my younger life while everybody else was still trying to get through college with no money. I had a house, I had a big garage, I had all the amplifiers we couldn't afford as kids, right? So, but I had no time for them. I couldn't even plug them in. I couldn't even turn the knobs, right? So that loneliness feeling, and then you get this network. And for me personally, I had to learn how to ask for help, and I still really struggle with that. I'm not good at it. I'm terrible at it, as you guys know. I will just get angry and finish it myself. But you get this network, and then they start calling you for something, and then you start getting them for something, and then you just are sitting one day in your car, and you randomly text the guy that you met at 6 conferences ago because of a thing, and he's so happy to hear from you.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, very unique to the business world, or at least government maybe, but the business world particularly, like, we're really steeped in that. Help find a mentor, find many mentors, build a village. And as somebody's
There's probably a lot of tribes and communities. Like, I don't think it's everywhere, but I know, like, I saw a bit of that when I was a chef. Like, my trade was that, and it's a very, like, you can go anywhere in the world and you can just announce that's my community and you're brought in. Like, and I did that. Like, I just like, hey, that's what I do. And immediately some shared language, brought to the poker, brought into the kitchen. You all had the exact same problems. Yeah. I think everybody needs to find that for themselves. I don't think it exists everywhere, but it's really important.
Yeah.
And finding, we say this a lot, and I think it would be really fun to do just a podcast, really naked behind the curtains of the struggles that we have had as 3 business owners, as not just humans. Aaron trying to become, every year different Aaron, father and husband and whatever, but also I got to be your business partner, and we got staff to manage and people to manage, and we know the struggles that we've had, but the core of all of it that has always worked, and I think that is the one piece of advice I would always share, is find people that have the same ambition as your end goal. And Colby, you gave me some of the greatest advice I've ever had, and I've never left it. And it said, don't go through the doors if the people walking out of them aren't the person you want to become. And I think about that all the time. And you were referring to like restaurant. I think it was like, should I eat here or here? And he was like, well, do you want to go through the door of Galactus and look like them, or do you want to come out of McDonald's? And I think about that all the time now, and I teach it to my kids, because I'm like, you want to be an athlete? Where are the athletes coming out? Where are they? Are they coming out of the rink at 6 a.m, or are they coming out of bed at 6 a.m? They're coming out of the rink at 6 a.m, right? And that philosophy is really stuck with me, and that's your core philosophy. And I never had a term for it, but that was also my core philosophy. And Levi, that's your core philosophy. You just want to go have an engaging conversation with anybody that has a worth in the space. And
as long as they give a shit about it.
as long as they need
Yeah.
passion. And like, one of our biggest, and they're not fights, but it would appear that to a lot of people, is because you love to mine for conflict, to unpack the world around you. And for me, deeply analytical human thinking, that's a really challenging space to be put in, because I have deeply thought of it so much, and it gets exhausting almost re-justifying it. But the truth is you've never asked me to re-justify. You're doing exactly what I do in a different form. And Colby and I will sit down and we'll speak in cartoons, half words, and like song titles, because we share that core, all three of us, whatever it is, and then the rest we just add our skill set onto it. And I think that's really unique. And I suspect there's a lot of great partnerships out there that have that same way. We share a philosophy, not a lifestyle. None of us have the same upbringing. None of us really, we never had the same interest. We have crossover interests, but it's the core philosophy. It's our moral compass. It's our want for how we see profits and money and people and philosophy that I think keeps the wheel turning.
Agreed, 100%. Yes, and we're coming close to the time we have for today. I'm hoping this isn't the last. You mentioned as a tease earlier, Colby, but I think we're close enough. I would love to, without getting into enough detail, because things are changing quick, what's coming, what that big exciting new service is, just enough detail about why we saw it and why we're excited about it.
Yeah, good question. I'm pretty excited because I had our first few sales calls with it, and learned a lot.
It's a thing that I, in 5 years ago, would never in a million years have been excited about, which is very interesting.
No, same. My entire life, I never thought I'd ever say this out loud, but we are fired up about bookkeeping. I hated math growing up. I just because it wasn't applied to anything that I was interested in. But now I'm interested in this because it's a need that we've been seeing. We've been working with all sorts of different companies over the past 8 years, and a common thread and frustration is that people didn't have accurate numbers to work with. And a lot of the projects that we do, we're integrating project management systems, CRMs. There's this big kind of scaffolding that we're building. But the gap was, if we didn't have clear financials to work with, or they didn't have clear financials to work with, what are we actually doing? And, what's that end result hoping to get to is we're hoping to increase the success of the business or the organization. So we saw this gap in the market and decided to launch what we're calling Iron House Bookkeeping, or Iron House Books. And we're super, super excited about it. And the goal is, how can we be tech forward, but also super human focused? And how can we offer the best customer service possible and have this, up-to-date monthly financials with numbers that actually matter to them, for them to be able to make decisions?
And we'd seen a lot of the we had seen the lack of numbers, but when we looked at what was the cause, and we talked to lots of people, we have a lot of trusted circles. And what surprised me, it still surprises me, but I've had to go fact check it, is there's lots of people who want to give you advice, like on taxes, on succession, on strategy around your finances. And so that wasn't the gap. It was literally just the boring stuff, the hard stuff, the less thrilling stuff. It was the dependable, they're not going to drop me, they're not going to retire, they're going to keep up with me bookkeeping service. Even the people who give the advice couldn't find people to do that. And so us embracing and being excited to embrace the boring stuff, because it solves a really complicated problem, I just think is so reflective of what our organization is. Even our team are super oh yeah, I can't wait to solve this one.
Yeah, and that's a testament to the thing that we've built over time. Is the fact that they didn't even flinch the idea of this was incredible. And that I actually wasn't really expecting that. I don't think I was expecting anything, but the reaction was perfect. And I also think that, I was talking to a guy yesterday who's got 45 employees, and he's managing the books every month. and he's also leading, and he's also like, he's doing everything. And I think that this common story we've been hearing over and over again, it's like, well, if you give that time back, what does that free you up to do? And if we're, you know, putting in that accountability piece for them, knowing that it's going to be getting done with a great
Yeah.
team behind it, I think it's
Or
pretty.
sometimes even darker, like what happens if you can't do it? Like,
Yeah.
I've told this story on a couple of these things, was like, my first business closed because I wasn't able to firefight. I went to the hospital for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like if so much depends, like if you're the person who does all the payroll, all the books, and also operates, then like it's hard to measure because it doesn't come out as a bottom line or a line item, but it's like that's real.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
I went
think
to
when
see
Aaron,
Greg Crabtree speak, the guy that wrote Simple Numbers. And I went to see him speak in Whistler. And then we had a conversation afterwards on a Zoom call. And like, it just, the numbers that matter really stuck with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's only a certain amount of types of businesses out there, and they have a model that should be working for them. And anyway, it's very, very exciting.
You were gonna say something, Aaron?
yeah, I just, kind of backing up to the boring business thing, like a mentor of mine, someone I deeply, deeply respect, Paul Johnson. Paul is a steeped Harvard business grad, and very stoic and stalwart in his approach and his being. I am definitely a little more liberal compared to that. Not in mindset, I just mean in style and acting and the way we approach the world. And he had always said the best businesses are boring. And if you're really doing it, it's boring and you find excitement in that. And I remember 7 years ago, 6 years ago, when he said that to me, I was like, all right, old guy, it's time to go to bed. Come on, us, like, you were going to bust out the guitars and have some beers. Like, and now I am so obsessed with the boring side of business because I really feel like that's the good stuff, and like, I think of like the excitement of startup. Like, I could go do startup life forever. Like, how many people just run around, they start something for 5 years, they get their little money out, they pass it on or whatever, right? And it's just like, to me, it's about that sustainability side of that, and the bookkeeping. When we talked around it, we had looked at every other angle because it was just such a big problem. It was just like, and our own struggles with it, not just like finding great accountant advice and constantly trying to check the CRA's very cloak and dagger interpretations of stuff, but it was always boiling down to like numbers. And, when we went through Matt Sims and Mark Sims' program, really helped us understand how to reorient our numbers. And then, Colby's influence with simple numbers around, how to do it. And then us using all of these systems and tools and to get our utilization rates. And, numbers are the story. Once you learn how to read them, and I think for a lot of people and myself and businesses, and I think what you guys would agree is it's like reading music. Some people just want to pick up a guitar and play. No one wants to sit down and read the staff and learn the scales and but if you play guitar long enough, some of us just want to sit down and learn the staff and learn the scales. And I think, the bookkeeping is that. I want to take the artistry of music, of business to that next level and give some like actual, like, how many business owners have we sat with and they say, I think it's like, what's your margin? I think it's around 16. Well,
How much does it cost you to do that work?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
right. And like, well, are you incorporating your time? Like, well, are you incorporating like, and then you get to some other large scale businesses where they're hyper quantified and they've taken out all the people out of the calculate. And that's okay. Some industries require it, manufacturing, millwork, they can be a little less, but then there's also people that are manufacturing foods that want their people to go home. So there's all these new measures that I think the bookkeeping will allow us to continue our work, but also, like, back to the scraped knee, like sharing that road rash with somebody. These bookkeeping will allow us to prevent business owners from burning out and crashing and give them just some peace of mind.
we can share our 2-year journey to getting actual utilization numbers on our productivity. Like that was a
Absolutely.
2-year effort of like slow, incremental, pressured
Of change management, of the way that we do
systems, process.
coordination, project coordination, and then the overutilization of numbers, right? We've seen that side of it where we really try to, nobody's going to go to a like obese gym trainer if you're trying to get abs, right? So like we got to have the abs all day, and in order to have the abs all day, that means we got to eat asparagus. You gotta have 3,000 calories a week, and there's no cheeseburgers, and that's the difficult part of the business we're in, is because we're all that core philosophy is like we live that. So that same road rash that we've seen and it's looked outward, that's going into the bookkeeping company, and that's why I have no doubt it's the right place for us to be, and it's the right successful move, particularly in the landscape that we're in, and the relationships that we built. They're built on the exact same philosophies. If Iron House is going to meet you where you're at, that's what we're doing with books. And for some of us, it's going to be easy. It's real transactional. It's no problem. For others, it might mean we got to drive to the middle of the country and do this on a fishing boat. And that's okay too. And I'm down for that experience. And that's what I love. All three of us and our entire team love the opportunity of that little crazy experience. Yeah.
In the farmer's kitchen, whatever makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. And we talk around how there's no great, use New Brunswick, like 4% food security here. Like, and people that are going to watch this podcast, watch it, are in places that are, what? Be like, there's 4% food security. It wasn't always like that. It's infrastructures like we're trying to create proper bookkeeping that prevent those businesses from being successful, because they have this incredible skill and craft, and they've been forced to fit into the business box to make that craft their best. And like, that's what we've always tried to strip out. So, I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a great opportunity for everyone, I hope.
So we're at the end of our time, and I'm sure there'll be future conversations. Any final words for a Friday?
Well, for Friday going into a long weekend. I mean, great question. Any final thoughts?
That's a no. So
my final thoughts are, thank you for always pulling me to places that I don't want to go, and pulling me in a safe way to those places. I think that's important, because I don't love this environment, but I'm happy to do it. I had a lot of fun today, and I think we've
unpacked. It just took 4 or 5 tries. It's good.
Year. I booked one with Matt Bork. If you guys haven't seen it, you should go check out his podcast. But I was like, oh, Matt, I'm going to do podcast more. I book it. He's like, come on. It's been like 5 months. I haven't followed up. I just got to click one link. I'm like, oh, Matt, love you, buddy. But I think that's the moral of all of this, that I would love, if we thought of the sound bite, it is that if you want to do great things, you got to go to places you're uncomfortable being, period. And my story of like, I literally remember trying to get my hands clean so I could go door to door and hand out campaign stuff. And I didn't look like I was blue collar, which is hilarious, because like, what's wrong with that? Right? What's wrong with who you are? But I think for so many of us, especially as we're on this journey to the top of the mountain, once you get to the first top, you look out and you realize there's many mountains in the Rockies, and so like that's the leading philosophy, is like, go climb the mountains that are important to you. Like, don't do half adventures. Just go for it, and be comfortable with where you end up.
Well, let's finish it there. We'll only get shallower if we go any further. So it's a good indicator.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, guys.
This episode of Built to Last is brought to you by Iron House Pro, your behind-the-scenes partner in building organizations designed to thrive. We specialize in solving the big challenges, the small annoyances, and everything in between. So while you're out there dreaming big, we're here making sure your systems, processes, and people are ready for tomorrow. Iron House Pro, driven to create lasting organizations. Learn more at ironhousepro.com.